Imagine this: a 13th birthday party. Balloons, cake, laughter. All the classic ingredients of an unforgettable celebration. It's a moment every kid dreams of. A day filled with excitement, joy, and the promise of adventure. But what if that joy was shattered in an instant? What if the very people entrusted to protect a child were harboring dark, sinister secrets? Meet Meline Soto, a bright and spirited girl from Kame, Florida. Just one day after her milestone birthday, she vanished without a trace. One moment she was surrounded by family and friends, celebrating another year of life. The next, she was gone, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a heartbroken community. At first, the disappearance seemed like a tragic mystery, an unfortunate case of a missing child. But as investigators peeled back the layers, what they uncovered would shake everyone to their core. The last moments of Meline's life revealed a chilling web of betrayal and deception that no one saw coming. This is not just another missing persons case. This is a tragic, gut-wrenching story that exposes the hidden dangers lurking behind closed doors. It's a tale of misplaced trust, a devastating reminder of how quickly innocence can be stolen. On February 26, 2024, the Soto family's world was turned upside down. Just hours before, Meline had been celebrating her future, dreaming of what lay ahead, but as the sun dipped below the horizon, those dreams turned into a nightmare. What happened that fateful night? Who was behind Meline's disappearance? And why was no one prepared for the dark truths that would soon come to light? Buckle up, because this is a case that will leave you speechless. Welcome to the tragic and terrifying story of Meline Soto. A true crime documentary, 2025. Reality hidden beneath the surface of Mine's life. A web of secrets and troubling dynamics that would lead to heartbreak and horror. The last person to see her was her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, who claimed he dropped her off at school that morning. However, it was obvious, especially as the search became more committed, that the entire tale was riddled with inconsistencies. And trust was the last concern on anyone's mind. What started off as helping locate a lost child immediately shifted to a nasty, detestable investigation, filled with more than enough shocking information in staggering facts. The community rallied together, but with each passing hour, hope dwindled as dark truths began to emerge. Join us today as we explore the chilling case of Mind Stowe's life was woven with both joy and more turmoil, shaped by the dynamics of her family. At just 13 years old, she lived with her mother, Jennifer Stowe, in the Venetian Bay Village complex in Kissimmee, Florida. Their home, while filled with love, was not without its challenges. Jennifer, a dedicated mother, often found herself at odds with her daughter, leading to frequent arguments that left both feeling frustrated and misunderstood. Meline was diagnosed with ADHD, which affected her ability to focus and contributed to her struggles in school. Teachers described her as a sweet girl prone to distraction, but possessing a kind heart. In the months leading up to her disappearance, friends began to notice a shift in her demeanor. Meline often seemed sad and fatigued, sometimes crying without explanation. She confided in her friends about her mother's struggles with mental health, referring to Jennifer as bipolar and expressing feelings of isolation. Adding complexity to their relationship was the presence of Stephen Stearns, Jennifer's boyfriend, though Meline spoke affectionately about him, calling him stepfather, and often reaching out for comfort during conflicts with her mother. The dynamics of the household were anything but simple. Stephen had taken on a fatherly role in Mine's life. However, this arrangement raised eyebrows among those who knew them. In early 2024, Meline began voicing an unsettling desire to escape her home life. She shared plans with her friends about building a house in the woods as soon as she turned 13. A dream that seemed innocent at first, but took on a darker tone when viewed through the lens of her subsequent disappearance. As February 26th approached, a day that should have been filled with excitement following her birthday celebration, tensions were palpable within the STTO house. The morning began like any other. It would soon spiral into chaos that would change everything. Mine's living situation was a blend of affection and conflict. While she cherished moments spent with Stephen and often sought his support during difficult times, the underlying issues within the household loomed large. As investigators began to retrace Mine's last movements and dive deeper into her family dynamics, they would uncover shocking truths that hinted at the tragic fate awaiting this bright young girl on February 26, 2024. The day began like any other. Jennifer Soto woke up early to the sound of her boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, taking their dog out for a walk in her sleepy haze. She returned to the bed, blissfully unaware of the dark turn her day would take as the morning filtered through the curtains. The family dynamics seemed normal, but beneath the surface lay tension and unspoken fears. Stephen drove Meline to school that morning, but instead of dropping her off directly at Hunter Creek Middle School, he made a fateful decision to leave her at peace. United Methodist Church, conveniently located across the street. It was around 8:30 a.m. when he dropped her off. Surveillance footage later captured Meline lingering in the church parking lot for several minutes. Her small figure was seen sitting on the ground, seemingly lost in thought. As time passed, she stood up and walked towards the school, but she never arrived. In those crucial moments, no one could have imagined that this would be the last time anyone would see Meline. The innocence of a typical school day was shattered as she disappeared into thin air at some point during the day. Stephen told Jennifer that he had factory reset his phone in an attempt to update it as the clock ticked on and morning turned to afternoon. Mine's absence began to raise alarms. Stephen's casual dismissal of his responsibility and his ineptness, Jennifer's obviousness to the danger lurking in their midst, would soon come to haunt them both. Around 4:30 p.m., Jennifer Soto arrived at Hunter Creek Middle School, her heart filled with anticipation to pick up her daughter. However, as she scanned the crowd of students streaming out of school, a sinking feeling began to wash over her. Meline was nowhere to be found. Concern quickly turned to panic when school administrators informed Jennifer that Meline had never attended classes that day. The realization hit her. Something was terribly wrong. In a frantic attempt to locate her daughter, Jennifer searched nearby locations, including her mother's office where she thought Meline might have gone after school. As she drove through nearby locations, including her mother's office, where she thought Meline might have gone after school, as she drove through the familiar streets, anxiety gripped her heart. She checked every corner and called out Mine's name, but there was no response. The world around her felt increasingly surreal as the minutes ticked by after exhausting all possible locations. And, failing to find any sign of her daughter, Jennifer's desperation grew. She reached out to friends, hoping they had seen Meline or could offer some insight into where she might be. Social media became a tool for outreach as she posted about Mine's disappearance, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. As dusk approached and the sun dipped below the horizon, Jennifer realized that time was slipping away. With dread setting in her stomach, she made a difficult decision to report Meline missing around 8 p.m. The weight of uncertainty bore down on her as she dialed 911. Knowing that every passing moment could mean the difference between finding her daughter safe or facing an unimaginable tragedy. When Jennifer Stowe finally dialed 911 to report her daughter missing around 8 p.m., the weight of her fear was palpable. The response from law enforcement, however, was not immediate. It took several hours for deputies to arrive at the scene. leaving Jennifer in a state of growing anxiety as she paced the school grounds, desperately hoping for news of Meline. By the time officers responded, nearly 12 hours had passed since she last saw her daughter. As the deputies arrived, they began to gather information from Jennifer and Stephen Stearns, who had accompanied her. Their initial questions focused on Mine's last known whereabouts and implied any potential leads that might help locate her. With each answer given by Jennifer and Stephen, investigators noticed inconsistencies that would later raise red flags about Stephen's involvement in Mine's disappearance. The following day, February 27th, law enforcement launched an extensive search operation that would involve over 100 personnel. From various agencies, including the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and local volunteers from the community, canines were deployed to track Meline's scent, while search teams combed through nearby parks, hiking trails, and wooded areas surrounding Creek Middle School. Search efforts were methodical and thorough. Officers utilized ATVs and horses to cover rough terrain that might be difficult for foot patrols. They scoured every inch of the area where Meline was last seen, following tips and leads as they emerged. Volunteers joined in the search, handing out flyers bearing Mine's picture and details about her disappearance, hoping to spark recognition from anyone who might have seen her. Despite their efforts, each passing hour brought with it a sense of urgency and dread as investigators pieced together a timeline of Mine's movements on that fateful day. They began to uncover unsettling truths that would lead them down a dark path, one that would ultimately reveal the tragic fate of this young girl. As the search for Meline intensified, Jennifer Soto's heart raced with worry. In her desperate quest for answers, she noted with a sinking feeling that Meline had left her phone at home, a common occurrence due to her forgetfulness associated with ADHD. It wasn't unusual for Meline to misplace things, but this time it felt ominous. The absence of her phone meant there would be no immediate way to track her movements or communicate with her. Determined to find any clues that could shed light on her daughter's whereabouts, Jennifer turned to Mine's text messages. She scoured through her daughter's conversations, hoping to uncover something, anything, that might indicate where Meline had gone or who she had been in contact with. There were no alarming texts, no hints of plans to run away, no signs of distress as the investigation into Stone's disappearance unfolded. Law enforcement quickly turned their attention to the last known individuals who had seen her: Jennifer and her boyfriend Stephen Stearns. The officers began their inquiry by interviewing both, eager to piece together the timeline of events leading up to Mine's vanishing. Stephen claimed that he had dropped Meline off in front of Peace United Methodist Church around 8:40 a.m. on February 26th, just a short walk from Hunter Creek Middle School. He described how she exited the vehicle and headed toward the school, seemingly unbothered as she walked away. However, as investigators began to dig deeper into his account, inconsistencies began to surface during his interviews with police. Stephen's demeanor raised eyebrows. While he presented a calm exterior, investigators noted subtle signs of nervousness in his responses. He provided consent for law enforcement to search his phone, but insisted that he had accidentally performed a factory reset on it the same day Meline went missing. This claim struck investigators as suspicious. The timing was far too convenient. As they continued to question him, they learned that a license plate reader had captured Stephen's vehicle in various locations throughout the morning. Yet none of those locations aligned with his account of dropping Meline off at school. Instead of following a direct route to Hunter Creek Middle School, his car was seen making unusual turns and detours. Investigators pressed Stephen on his inconsistencies. They questioned why he would drop Meline off at a church instead of directly at school, especially given that classes started at 9:30 a.m. His explanations seemed rehearsed and lacked clarity, As they probed further into his timeline and movements that morning, it became increasingly clear that something about his story didn't add up. The tension in the room was palpable as investigators confronted him with their findings. They were aware that Stephen was now not only a person of interest, but also the last known individual to have seen Meline alive. With each question posed, the weight of the suspicion grew heavier upon him, setting the stage for what would come next in this unfolding tragedy. 2 days after Mine's disappearance, the investigation took a shocking turn. On February 28th, law enforcement officials arrested Stephen Stearns, but not for anything directly related to Madeline's case. Instead, he was taken into custody on charges of sex battery in possession of explicit child material. The arrest sent ripples through the community, raising questions about the man who had been the last person to see Meline alive. As investigators delved deeper into Stephen's background, they uncovered disturbing evidence that would change the course of the investigation entirely. Upon examining his phone, authorities found horrific content images and videos so graphic that they left seasoned detectives shaken. This material was not just troubling, it was deeply unsettling and pointed to a pattern of abuse that had likely been occurring within the family home. Stephen claimed that he had accidentally performed a factory reset on his phone on the same day Meline went missing. However, investigators found this timing to be suspiciously convenient. The reset erased crucial data that could have provided insight into his actions and whereabouts on the morning of Mine's disappearance. As law enforcement sifted through the remnants of what was left on Stephen's device, they discovered numerous explicit images and videos depicting child sexual abuse. The content was so graphic that it made stomachs turn, detailing acts that no child should ever endure. The investigators noted that many of these files appeared to have been taken inside the family home, raising alarming questions about what had transpired in those walls. The sheriff's office stated they observed distinct patterns in some of the images, clothing items that matched those belonging to Meline. This revelation painted a horrifying picture of a man who had not only been entrusted with caring for a young girl, but who may also have been her abuser. With this newfound evidence, Stephen was named the primary suspect in Mine's disappearance. While he was not initially charged with her abduction, investigators were increasingly convinced that his actions were intertwined with her fate as details emerged about his disturbing behavior. In the content investigation, a shift from searching for a missing girl to uncovering a web of deception and horror that would ultimately lead to deeper inquiries into what really happened on that fateful day. On March 1, 2024, authorities received a tip that would lead them to a wooded area off Hickory Tree Road in Ula County. As research teams scoured the terrain, they stumbled upon a discovery that would shatter any remaining hope. Mine's body was found concealed beneath a layer of dry grass and hay. The condition of her body was heart-wrenching. She was identified by distinctive clothing, a green hoodie and blue jeans similar to what she had been wearing when she disappeared. The sight of her lifeless form painted a haunting picture of the tragedy that had unfolded in those fateful days. As investigators worked meticulously to gather evidence from the scene, they noted signs of decomposition on one side of her face, and hands the medical examiner investigation observed that Mine's body showed signs consistent with foul play, further solidifying the belief that she had been murdered. This discovery marked a pivotal moment in the investigation. The transition from searching for a missing girl to recovering the body of a young child was an emotional blow, not only for law enforcement, but for the entire community. As news spread about the recovery, sorrow, outrage filled the hearts of those who had rallied together in hopes of finding Meline alive. During a critical news conference, Investigators shared their growing confidence that 13 and Stone had been killed at her Kissam home before her body was moved. Sheriff Mina revealed that video evidence captured Stephen Stearns discarding items into a dumpster at the apartment complex around 7:35 a.m. on February 26. The very day Meline was reported missing in that dumpster, authorities discovered Mine's backpack, her school-issued laptop, and a white crock that matched another found in her mother's bedroom. This evidence contradicted Stephen's claim that he had dropped Meline off near school that morning. Instead, investigators stated they had evidence indicating that Meline was never dropped off at all. They believed she was already dead by the time Stephen was seen driving away. Sheriff Minnie emphasized, "We have evidence that shows Stephen Stearns returning to the complex with Meline visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time." Investigative reports indicated that Meline was most likely killed in her home, further complicating the narrative surrounding her disappearance. The cause of death of 13-year-old Meline was officially ruled as a homicide by the medical examiner, who determined that she died from strangulation. This conclusion came after her body was discovered in a wooded area on March 1st. On March 2nd, 2024, Stephen Stearns waived his first appearance in Euler County Court, opting to be represented solely by his attorney. The judge denied him bond, reflecting the seriousness of the charges he faced. In a significant misstep, the Euler County sheriffs accidentally posted a confidential crime scene photo on social media. The image depicted clothing consistent with what Meline was believed to have been wearing when she went missing. The sheriff's office later issued an apology for the error, acknowledging that the photo should not have been made public. On March 6th, court records revealed that Stephen was accused of sexually abusing Meline for years, despite his attempts to erase incriminating evidence from his phone. Investigators recovered files showing explicit content related to Meline, dating back to 2022. This evidence videos that depicted her in compromising situations. Additionally, police interviewed a former acquaintance of Stephen, who noted that he seemed more upset about his bond with Meline than his relationship with her mother. This raised further concerns about the dynamics within the household and Stephen's potential motivations. As the investigation progressed, it became increasingly clear that authorities were building a strong case against Stephen. The combination of video evidence, recovered digital files, and witness testimonies painted a troubling picture of abuse and manipulation that would ultimately lead to serious legal repercussions for him. On March 6th, detective interviewed Stephen's parents, who expressed disapproval of his relationship with Meline Soto's mother, citing concerns over drug use and the negative influence it had on their son. They described a troubling dynamic where both Stephen and Jennifer would often sleep excessively, exacerbating their mental health issues. Notably, during the interview, Stephen's mother mentioned finding the torso of a sex doll in his bedroom, raising further suspicions about his behavior. On the same day, detectives also spoke with two roommates of Jennifer Sue. One roommate reported hearing significant noises coming from the upstairs bedroom, where Stephen and Meline had reportedly been sleeping alone. This raised questions about what might have transpired that night, especially since Jennifer had assured her roommate that Stephen would not harm Meline. After several hearings and investigation developments, on March 12, 2024, the Orange Ula State Attorney's Office announced that it had filed 60 counts against Stephen Stearns. These charges included 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12, 5 counts of sexual battery with a child 12 to 18, familial custodial authority, 7 accounts of LUD or lascivious molestation, and 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child. The following day, detectives spoke with Mine's best friend, who revealed that Meline had a routine of texting her every morning. On the day she went missing, there were no messages from her, raising further alarm. By March 1, Kissman Betty Holland held a news conference to discuss the investigation's progress. She described it as very intricate and stated that everyone close to Meline was considered a suspect until proven otherwise. This included Mine's mother, Jennifer. As the investigation continued, the District 9 Medical Examiner Office announced that the autopsy report for Meline could not be released due to state statutes deeming it confidential. However, audio from 911 calls related to the case were made public, featuring two different voices speaking with dispatchers on April 10th while in jail. Stephen called his father, expressing remorse and uncertainty about who was responsible for Mine's fate. He stated, "You know, I would never have wanted that for Meline," suggesting an unawareness of the gravity of the situation as the investigation into Mine's tragic disappearance and subsequent demise progressed. Significant developments unfolded on April 11, 2024. Stephen's father contacted at law enforcement after discovering a hard drive in his storage unit. This hard drive was linked to Stephen, who previously claimed it was in his bedroom. The following day, police retrieved this hard drive, along with 2 USB drives, by April 22nd. Investigators announced that while the hard drive contained no evidence, one of the USB drives held over 350 images of child pornography on April 24th. A grand jury indicted Stephen on first-degree murder charges in connection with Mine's death. Kism. Police Chief Betty Holland stated that evidence indicated Stephen had made calculated efforts to dispose of Mine's belongings and conceal her body before she was reported missing. The state attorney's officer later announced that they would seek the death penalty against him as court proceedings continued. Detectives interviewed Mine's mother again on April 18th. During the interview, she revealed that she had returned home late to find Meline and Stephen alone together. She recounted allowing them to sleep in the same bed due to her trust in him, raising questions about the dynamic within their household. By June 10th, prosecutors officially sought the death penalty against Stephen Stearns. The community remained on edge as they awaited trial proceedings, grappling with the horror of what had transpired. The public reaction was one of heartbreak and anger. Vigils were held in Mine's memory, and community members rallied for justice. The case sparked discussions about child safety and the need for vigilance against potential threats lurking in everyday life as the legal process continues. Meline Soto's story serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of protecting our children and ensuring that their voices are heard. The quest for justice remains ongoing as investigators and community members alike seek answers to a tragedy that has left an indelible mark on their lives. And just like that, this whole case turned into something straight out of a horror movie, but in real life. The community was shaken. People were lighting candles, holding vigils, and demanding justice. I mean, how do you even process something this dark? The fact that prosecutors were gunning for the death penalty? Yeah, that tells you how serious this was. Meanwhile, investigators were digging deeper. And the public, they were not letting this one slide. Parents were side-eyeing everyone, questioning who they really let around their kids. At the end of the day, this case wasn't just about one horrific crime. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that danger doesn't always come in a creepy mask or a dark alley. Sometimes it's disguised as trust, right inside the home. And as this legal battle rages on, one thing's for sure. People will remember Meline Soto. They will fight for justice, and they will make sure that her story serves as a lesson to never ignore the red flags, no matter how subtle they seem, because when it comes to protecting our loved ones, no one gets a free pass. This has been your deep dive into the case of Meline Soto. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. And as always, stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one. True Crime Documentary 2025.